Hello, everybody. I'm Arvin Matthews. I preach on God's ministry. I'll be preaching in the morning. Video will be posted on God's ministry. God's ministry is Arvin Matthews. I've been preaching for a number of years. I started out giving a message or two over the little old church back in the day. And I tell you, I got up there to preach that sermon that first time, and I was so nervous. My legs was bumping together. I was so scared and nervous. And I'd wrote down everything in a book, on paper, in other words. I wrote it down, wrote the sermon down. So I got up there, the preacher said, "You let me so-called preach." A lot of people come. I don't know now if they come to see me or not, but a lot of people come. I started preaching, so to speak, but I was reading off in that paper. And I pray and I think, I don't know, a lot of it was God, a lot of it was me, but I just wanted to be a preacher. He called me to preach, and I know he did, but did I have the right? That I started out in a way that's pleasing with him, And I know that was the reason I was nervous when I was preaching, because I didn't put him front and center. It was an old Arvin mixed in there or something. So I started preaching. The time went on. And every time it would get easier. And I couldn't figure out why. And ever since I started, I've always called it God's ministry, because I want to put him front and center in this ministry. So anyhow, I preached here and there, and then finally I started preaching in nursing homes and started going away. I'd drive 30 miles one way to preach sermon every Sunday had a little chapel over to the nursing home, and I'd go over there and preach. And then I started preaching in another little town, and then in my hometown here. I'd preach on Sunday evenings up there. And I tell you, it was going all the time. All the time I was going back and forth. And before I knew it, I got burnt out, But I learned so much in them nursing homes. Those elderly people would chime in and talk to me and tell me what was wrong with my sermon, or tell me what was wrong with what I said. I got a lot of schooling from the people. And I believe with all my heart that's what a preacher needs, is to listen to people, to know and understand a lot of things, because they were, older people know a heck of a lot more than I did, because they done been through it. Everything that I'm going through now, they done been through it, if they older than me. But anyhow, I was riding around one day, and God led me down to this little old, back in the woods, I say woods, it was back off the beaten path. And there was a church. And it was vacant. And I said, "Lord, are you leading me here?" And it was a learning experience, I know now, but then I'm thinking, Lord led me to this church. So I come home, and I told the wife all about it, told everybody I knew about it. And I got her to ride back down there with me. She said, "This does feel like something's here, something that you need." So anyway, I went down there and I got the lights turned back on and the heater going and got it back up functioning again. Well, that first Sunday I preached, two of the dedicated church members come. My sister, son-in-law, or brother-in-law, yeah. Grandkids and my kids, they all come. So we had about, I guess, 10, 15 people maybe there. I don't know if it's that many or not. And I got up and preached a sermon and it felt good. You know, I got down and after I got through preaching, I felt that God led me what to say and throughout the whole deal and everything. Well, it wasn't long, the lady of the church, the main leader, I guess, come up and she said, I got a list here on this paper of what this church wants you to do as a pastor. In other words, the guidelines for the pastor, you know what I mean? Well, I brought her home and I got to thinking about it. And I looked at some stuff on there and it was what they wanted instead of what God wanted. So I got that paper and I went down to that lady's house and I give her that paper and I gave her the keys to that church and I said, this ain't for me. I'm sorry, this is not for me. I'm sorry. But down deep in my soul, I wouldn't. I was thanking God that He led me in the right direction to follow Him. So anyway, I give it up. Went back to the nursing home again, started preaching. Which they had a little church. They got a little church over where I was preaching at, and it was just awesome. I tell you, at one time, a lot of people. I'm not all about the numbers. I don't focus on numbers in the church and all that, but a lot of people showed up. And it gives you encouragement when you do see people come to hear what God's got to say. And time rolled on, and about that time, here come that pandemic. Lord have mercy, everybody had the COVID. And they told me I couldn't come back to the nursing home and preach. So I said, well, shoot, I'll get my camera, which I was filming it anyhow. I sit up there in the living room, so I went to preaching. Every Sunday, I'd stand that camera up, and I'd preach just like I was in a church, which I was. God led me down a path to where I could still get His word out. So, time went on and on and on, and I'm still doing it every Sunday morning. I have church in the living room of this little old trailer house we got.